All right, today we're cracking open a cold case. But this isn't your typical whodunit. This is an investigation into a global health crisis, and we're treating the food system like a crime scene. Because, well, the evidence suggests this isn't an accident. It seems like there are some much bigger forces at play.
And that's really the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? For decades, the story we've been told is so simple. Eat less, move more. But if it were that easy, would we be here? It kind of feels like the game is rigged, you know? So our investigation is going to follow the money, follow the science, follow the evidence, and see who's really been pulling the strings. You know, every good detective story starts with that one single overlooked clue. And for this case, our first clue takes us to a pretty unexpected time and place, right after the end of World War II. Whoa, hold on a second. Munitions factories? You're telling me this whole thing starts with bombs? How on earth does that connect to what's in our refrigerators today? It sounds a little nuts, but trust me, the connection is shockingly direct. Let me just show you how it all went down. It really boils down to this crazy three-step chain reaction. Okay, so step one, the war ends. Now America has all these giant factories that used to make ammonium nitrate for explosives. Step two, what do you do with them? Well, you pivot. You use that exact same technology to make super cheap nitrogen fertilizer. And the result? Step three, farmers can suddenly grow way more corn than ever before. We're talking about a literal mountain of corn. So you've got this mountain of corn, basically a solution looking for a problem. But right around the same time, a new character steps onto the scene, a very influential scientist who is about to send the entire investigation down the completely wrong path for decades to come. This is where we identify our first major suspect. Our prime suspect's name? Ancel Keys. Now, this guy was a big deal, a really prominent scientist with a theory that was incredibly compelling. His claim, based on something called the 7 countries study, was simple, powerful, and easy to understand. Dietary fat causes heart disease, period. He sold it to the world like the case was already closed. And this chart right here, this was his star witness. This was the slam dunk piece of evidence that seemed to prove his case beyond any doubt. I mean, look at it. He shows data from 7 countries, and it's a perfect, clean, straight line. As fat consumption goes up, heart disease goes up. It was so simple, so visual, and incredibly convincing. This is the chart that basically made fat public enemy number 1. But here's the thing. A good detective always has to ask, are we seeing all the evidence? And the answer is not even close. Turns out, Keys actually had data from 22 countries. And when you plot all of them on the chart, poof, the connection completely vanishes. It's just a messy scatterplot. He conveniently left out countries like France, where people ate a ton of fat but had low rates of heart disease because they didn't fit his theory. He cherry-picked his data to tell the story he wanted. And this is where it gets really serious. This wasn't just some flawed study that got published in a journal somewhere. No, this became official policy. In 1961, Ancel Keys managed to convince the American Heart Association. And just like that, fat was officially convicted in the court of public opinion. The authorities were now chasing the wrong guy. So, with everyone distracted, with the whole world pointing the finger at fat, another player in this whole drama saw the perfect opportunity. It was a chance to commit a crime right out in the open while everyone was looking the other way. You know, every investigation has that one piece of evidence that cracks the case wide open, the smoking gun. For us, it's this number, $50,000. That's how much the Sugar Research Foundation secretly paid a group of Harvard scientists back in 1965. And let's be clear, this wasn't for some unbiased research. This was a payoff. And we've got the memo. We have their instructions, word for word, right from the case file. They were explicitly told to highlight the dangers of fat and downplay the risks of sugar. I mean, come on, it's a conspiracy in black and white. They literally paid to frame fat for a crime that sugar was committing all along. And unbelievably, that lie worked for over 50 years. Okay, let's recap the crime scene so far. We've got a mountain of corn just sitting there, waiting to be used. And we've got a public that has been scared into believing that fat is the ultimate dietary evil. It was the absolute perfect storm. These two separate plots were about to combine to create the metabolic weapon that we are all still dealing with today. And this is where it all comes together. Food companies, seeing a huge opportunity, start making all these low-fat and fat-free products. But they hit a snag. when you take the fat out of food, it tastes awful, like cardboard. So what's the solution? You pump it full of sugar to make it taste good again. And what was the cheapest, most available sweetener around? You guessed it, high fructose corn syrup, made directly from that giant mountain of corn. And the aftermath? Well, it's laid bare on this timeline. In 1984, the big soda companies switched to high fructose corn syrup. Then, just a few years later, in 1992, the official U.S. food pyramid is released, telling everyone to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains and carbs a day. The result? Look at the chart. Obesity and diabetes rates don't just go up, they explode. It's a terrifyingly perfect correlation.
So now let's look at the coroner's report. What did this weapon actually do to the victim? Our own bodies. The first charge on the docket is insulin resistance. Think of insulin like the key that unlocks your cells to let sugar in for energy. Well, when you just flood your body with sugar constantly, the locks on your cells get worn out. The key stops working. Sugar gets locked out of your cells, so your body just stores it as fat, all while your cells are literally starving for energy.
The second charge is fructose toxicity. See, fructose is pretty unique. It's processed almost entirely by your liver, so when you consume a ton of it, it's like sending all the city's traffic down one single-lane road. The liver gets totally overwhelmed, and its emergency response is to just turn all that excess fructose into dangerous visceral fat. This is the main driver behind the epidemic of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
And this last charge is maybe the most disturbing of all. It's based on a discovery from a century ago called the Warburg effect. To put it simply, cancer loves sugar. It is its absolute favorite food. So when you have constantly high levels of sugar and insulin in your body, you're not just causing metabolic problems, you're basically creating the perfect fertilizer for cancer cells to grow and multiply.
This brings us to the motive. Why do all this? Was it just about making low-fat food taste a little better? No. It was about making it completely irresistible. Food scientists actually have a term for it. They call it the bliss point. It's a precise, scientifically engineered formula of sugar, salt, and fat designed specifically to override your brain's natural I'm full signal and maximize addiction.
And I want to be clear, addiction is not me being dramatic. Let's just compare sugar to cocaine, side by side. They both trigger the exact same feel-good neurotransmitter, dopamine. They both light up the exact same reward centers in your brain. Over time, both of them create tolerance, meaning you need more and more to get that same effect. And the result for both? A very real biochemical dependence. This isn't about willpower, this is about your brain chemistry being hijacked.
So, after going through all the evidence, after following all the leads, who's the final culprit? Who is actually responsible for this crime? The truth is, it's not a single villain. It's a conspiracy with a whole lineup of accomplices. The entire system is guilty.
Let's just read the charges out loud. Post-war economics created the weapon. Flawed science pointed the blame at the wrong suspect. Corporate secrecy and outright bribery covered the whole thing up. Food engineering made the weapon addictive, and to top it all off, disastrous government policy told every single one of us that it was healthy. They all played a part.
And that brings us to our final verdict. It's a quote, actually, taken directly from our case file that just sums it all up perfectly. The global health crisis wasn't won by scientific truth, it was won by a combination of political maneuvering, corporate secrecy, and cheap corn. Case closed.
But, closing the case file on the past just opens a brand new one for the future. Because now that we know the system is designed to work against us, the investigation really turns to you. How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our families in a food system that is literally built to make us sick? That's the next mystery that all of us have to solve.